George Miller had always been a dog person. From the time he was a kid, he felt a connection with dogs that went beyond words. So, when he moved to a new city far from friends and family, adopting Crosby, a shelter dog, seemed like the natural thing to do. Crosby, a mix of who-knew-what breeds, was full of energy and love, quickly becoming George's closest companion. They did everything together: morning jogs, lazy Sundays on the couch, and weekend trips to the dog park. But hey, before we dive into the story, do yourself a favor and pause the video right now. Go hit that like button and let's see if we can make this video reach 1,000 likes. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to your favorite story channel. Also, make sure to ring the notification bell so you never miss out on the latest and weirdest stories. Trust us, you won't want to miss what's coming your way. Now sit back, relax, and prepare to be amazed as we take you on an unforgettable ride. Don't forget to engage with us in the comments below. We love hearing from you. Without further ado, let's dive right in. But recently, something had changed in Crosby. The dog, usually so full of life, had started acting strangely. For days, Crosby had been sitting in the living room, staring at the same spot on the wall, refusing to budge. George had noticed it first as a quirk, thinking maybe Crosby had seen a shadow or heard a noise from outside. But as days passed, the behavior became more pronounced. Crosby would sit by the wall from morning until night, leaving only to eat. His once lively nature was now replaced by a deep, unwavering focus on that small section of the wall. Concerned, George tried everything he could think of to figure out what was going on. He inspected the wall multiple times, checking for cracks, signs of pests, or anything that could be drawing Crosby's attention. But every inspection turned up nothing. The wall was just a wall. No hidden doors, no strange noises, no unusual smells. Yet Crosby continued to sit there, his eyes locked on the same spot, as if he was trying to communicate something urgent. George couldn't shake the feeling that Crosby was trying to tell him something. The way the dog looked at him, then back at the wall, was almost like he was pleading with George to understand. But no matter how hard George tried, he couldn't figure it out. It was as if there was a mystery behind the wall that only Crosby could sense. One evening, after another day of watching Crosby sit by the wall, George decided he needed a new approach. He went out and bought a security camera with night vision, hoping that maybe it would catch something that he was missing. He set up the camera to record the wall and Crosby's behavior while he was at work. Maybe, he thought, the footage would reveal something that his own eyes couldn't see. The next morning, George reviewed the footage with a mix of hope and anxiety. To his surprise, the footage didn't show anything out of the ordinary, at least not at first. Crosby wasn't staring at the wall all day as George had assumed. Instead, the dog only fixated on the wall when George was home. As soon as George left the house, Crosby would wander around, lying down or playing with his toys. But the moment he heard George's car in the driveway or the sound of keys at the door, Crosby would rush back to his spot by the wall, sitting down and staring intently. This discovery baffled George even more. Why would Crosby only behave this way when he was home? What was the connection between his presence and Crosby's strange behavior? The more George thought about it, the more he became convinced that something was hidden behind that wall, something only Crosby could sense when George was around. Determined to solve the mystery, George decided to take drastic action. Grabbing a hammer and a chisel, he carefully removed a section of the wall's paneling, exposing the drywall underneath. He tapped on the wall, listening for any hollow sounds, and when he found a spot that seemed different, he started to chip away at the drywall. As he worked, George's heart pounded in his chest. What could be hidden in the wall? A hidden room? A secret stash? Or something else entirely? Finally, after several minutes of chipping away, he made a small hole in the drywall. Taking a deep breath, George reached into the hole, his fingers brushing against something soft and warm. Startled, George pulled his hand back. He hadn't expected to find something alive. Gathering his courage, he reached back into the hole and carefully pulled out a small, trembling kitten. The tiny creature was covered in dust, its fur matted and dirty, but it was very much alive. Crosby, who had been watching intently, let out a soft whine and wagged his tail, as if to say, "Finally, you found it!" George was stunned. How had a kitten ended up inside his wall? And how had Crosby known it was there? The more George thought about it, the more he realized that Crosby must have somehow sensed the kitten's presence and was trying to alert him to it. But the bigger question remained: how did the kitten get there in the first place? As George held the kitten in his hands, he noticed how thin and weak it was. The poor thing must have been stuck in the wall for days, surviving on whatever little moisture it could find. Crosby nuzzled the kitten gently, his tail wagging with excitement. George couldn't help but smile at his dog's compassion. It was clear that Crosby had felt a deep connection to this little creature, even though it had been hidden away. George knew he needed to get the kitten some help, so he immediately took it to the vet for a checkup. The vet confirmed that the kitten was malnourished and dehydrated, but otherwise healthy. There was no microchip, and despite George's efforts to find the owner, posting on social media, putting up flyers, and asking around the neighborhood, no one came forward to claim the kitten. Over the next few days, George cared for the kitten, nursing it back to health with the help of the vet's instructions. Crosby, for his part, was overjoyed to have a new companion. The kitten, whom George named Whiskers, quickly warmed up to both George and Crosby, following them around the house and purring contentedly whenever it was near them. As the days turned into weeks, George realized that he had grown quite attached to Whiskers. He had initially planned to find the kitten a new home once it was healthy, but the bond that had formed between the three of them was undeniable. Crosby had found a new friend, and George had found a new member of his family. In the end, George decided to keep Whiskers. The little kitten had brought new life into their home, and Crosby was no longer lonely. The once empty spot on the wall that had caused so much concern was now a reminder of the unexpected but welcome addition to their lives. George couldn't help but marvel at the strange turn of events. What had started as a simple attempt to understand his dog's unusual behavior had led to the discovery of a new friend and a deeper bond with Crosby. It was a reminder that sometimes the most unexpected things could bring the greatest joy. And so, the three of them, George, Crosby, and Whiskers, settled into a new routine, one filled with the love and companionship that only a family, no matter how unconventional, could provide. The mystery of the wall had been solved, but it had also opened up a new chapter in their lives, one that George knew he would cherish forever.